So there's a misconception that if you're single, you are incomplete, perhaps damaged, salvaged, and you won't be happy until you find your one. And that is not true. That is bullshit. It is a message that has been fed to us by media and advertising. The truth is, when you're single, you have the richest soil for growth. That's why I created this podcast. And unlike other podcasts, this one is host-driven, not guest-driven. That means I will be rotating health and wellness experts 3 times a week to give you the giant box of wellness crayons, not just the primary colors, so you can start building a meaningful life. It's time to give singlehood a cape. Today's host is Rena Martine. She was a Los Angeles County Deputy District Attorney for 14 years, where she specialized in sex crimes, child abuse, and domestic violence cases. Today, she continues to serve women as an intimacy coach, educator, TEDx speaker, and author, with a mission and a fire in her belly to help women love their bodies, experience deep intimacy, and of course have great sex, all shame-free. Enjoy, Rena Martine.
I am your host, women's intimacy coach, Rena Martine. And today I am joined by the one and only Elle Chase. Elle is a multi-certified sexuality educator and coach, and the author of the highly regarded book, Curvy Girl Sex, 101 Body Positive Positions to Empower Your Sex Life. Elle is a frequent guest and a regularly quoted source for international media outlets, including NBC's Today Show, ABC's Nightline, and the New York Times. Elle coaches, speaks, and teaches workshops specializing in intimacy, body acceptance, and relationships through an intersectional, feminist, and trauma-informed lens. Elle, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for asking me. I'm a big fan of yours, so I was very flattered.
Yay. Well, the feeling is mutual. And, we haven't known each other that long. I met you earlier this year, and someone who we know in common, we were all at this event, and she's like, you have to meet this person. You two need to be involved in each other's orbits. And I'm so glad
I got the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And there is some overlap in what you and I both do. Obviously, we're talking about sex, intimacy, body image, relationships, but body image is your big thing. That's kind of your pillar. Whenever somebody, that is your big thing. And when I recommend your book so often to folks now, especially in the DMs. Yeah. And so let's hear a little bit about your journey. How did you become the curvy girl sex woman that you are today?
Well, I became a sex educator and a body acceptance advocate, if you will, accidentally. I used to be in the entertainment industry and I was a producer there, and I hated it and I left. I got married, and I was in a sexless marriage for a long time. And something happened to me one day, and I woke up and I thought, I've never experienced passion in my life. I've never enjoyed sex. I don't know why people are so into it, but there's got to be something to it. And I want to know what that's like. And I was not going to be able to find that with who I was married to, as wonderful as he was. A few things happened. I'm making a long story short, but I ended up leaving my husband, divorcing him, and going out in the dating scene to find this passion. But I was at the heaviest I was at that time. And I never had a good body image. I was told throughout my childhood that I was ugly, and I was not the ideal of what any man. I'm queer, but I date men, and so what any man would want, right? So I had that in my head as the primary idea of who I was. But this desire to experience passion was greater than my self-hatred of my body. And so I was compelled to go out and get this regardless of how I felt. And what that showed to me is that I am inherently sexy. No one has to tell me I'm sexy. My sexiness does not depend on anyone else's opinion. Because I dated just fine. I did great. I dated handsome actors. I dated someone that would be considered unconventionally attractive, fat, short, thin, tall, athletic, non-athletic. And in each one of those, I felt desired and learned to recognize what desire looks like, as opposed to, say, a fetishization or someone who just wants to fuck for a night, which is all important information. So as I became more comfortable dating, I didn't worry about my body, because I had now proven to myself that my body shape or what I looked like, my facial structure, was not going to get in the way of me having a good time and finding passion. And this began my philosophy of body image, which is you are inherently sexy. There is nothing anyone can do to take that away from you. And it has nothing to do with anyone else's opinion.
I mean, just in this, thank you so much for sharing that history. And it brings up a lot of things for me that I want to touch on. One is this idea of this inside out approach to sexuality, where it starts internally rather than it being, defined by the outside world. But really the bigger idea that we have this misconception that when I am confident, right? When X happens, then Y will follow. Once I'm confident, then I'll have good sex. Once I lose the weight, then X will happen. When really the action precedes the confidence. And that's what I'm hearing you say, that once you actually went out there and started having really good sex, you're like, wait a second, I was sexy all along. That sometimes we have to do the damn thing in order to become confident at the thing.
Yeah. And I think that's how humans are wired too. We have to learn new things. Our brains are always going to want to protect us. So if we were abused as children, experienced a great deal of trauma, if kids in the playground told us we were ugly, that is what our brain is protecting us for then the rest of our lives. And so we need to retrain our brain. And so for me, it just happened to be wrapped up in a package of find your sexuality, find passion, enjoy sex. But with that came the gift of body confidence. And it's not enough for people. Let me back up. The body positivity movement, and I say that actually in quotes, has been perverted in a way. Body positivity is great, but the movement itself, first of all, it's been co-opted by white women, and it was started by Black queer women and men in the 60s, the body positivity movement. So that is one problem alone, but also it's a commodified term. So what it tells you is, I want to be body positive, and, I'm going to love my body, and I'm going to do all these things and do this kind of yoga and buy the yoni eggs and do all those things. And I'm going to be sexy and confident in my body. And the thing is, that's all external stuff. The thing is that no one is going to be able to tell you to get confident. You have to find that. And you won't be able to come to the solution in one book with one person that says, I've got the ticket. Our inner world is way more nuanced than that. And we deserve a path that is possible that honors that nuance. And so what I like to talk about is not body positivity so much as relief toward acceptance. And acceptance being more of the goal, because you can't go from hating your body to loving your body. It doesn't work that way. You can't get from A to Z without going through the rest of the alphabet. And it's too far a reach for a lot of us if we are, assigned female at birth and have grown up like that. With all of the trauma that we didn't ask for, that came upon us, that is thrust upon us without us knowing it, in the form of media, it is almost cruel to ask us to love our bodies and not give us the feeling that if you don't get there, it's okay. Yeah. You are whole no matter what, and you are sexy no matter what, and you deserve pleasure and you deserve support. And people will find you attractive. I get that a lot of people saying, but so-and-so wasn't attracted to me. And all the people that I'm attracted to aren't attracted to me. That's not a body problem. That's a relational issue with yourself. And that is a worldview problem. That is other stuff. It's not because of the way you look at your body. It can be part of it, but it's not the reason you're picking, quote unquote, the wrong people. Am I making sense?
Absolutely. And I mean, you and I both live in Los Angeles. I mean,
yes.
need we say more? Two women who live in Los Angeles who are dealing with the added layer of the pressure in a very image-centered city that I say to folks often, all it took was you looking like a 9 or 10 to become confident, right? Mm-hmm. We would have a lot more confident women surrounding us here. And so I'm glad that you point out that there's something more going on there. But this idea of perspective, because I will encourage people sometimes to think about, okay, who's the best lover? Think about the best lover you've ever had, right? And think about that person. And did that person have and I'm using air quotes, did that person have the perfect, I use air quotes because perfection is bullshit, but did that person have the conventionally beautiful, again, air quotes, body? Or was that person simply very comfortable in their skin and owning who they are, regardless of height, weight, penis size, hair, lack of hair, any of those things, right? And this idea, well, I don't look like the women that he sees in porn. I'm just going to use this as something I've heard often from women. Yeah. Well, do you think right? Do you think he's used to sleeping with women who look like the women that he watches in porn, right? And the flip side is true.
It's
like, because I think that porn can also, don't get me wrong, I don't think porn's the devil. I think it's a tool that can be a very useful tool. However, I think porn does as much damage for male presenting bodies as for female ones, in terms of size, in terms of performance. So we don't talk that often about penis insecurity when we're talking about body acceptance and body image. So I don't want to leave that off the table here.
No, and I think you bring up a very good point, because with the lack of sex education in this country, and with it dwindling now, not going forward, but taking many steps back, it is so important that we explain to people that porn is not education. It is entertainment. So it is like me saying that I will be dating people that look like Brad Pitt and expecting that kind of movie star look, or that it's like learning how to drive from Fast and the Furious. You don't want to learn to drive from Fast and the Furious. Those people are professionals, they're athletes, and they're doing something for entertainment, and everything is shot in a certain way to make it look great. And that includes penis size. That includes performance. These people train. They are athletes. And so porn literacy is a huge, huge issue. And that includes being included in sex education, and would really go a long way to help with body image, to see it in a different frame, to pick out the construct of it and see it as it is, which is a Julia Roberts movie, basically. It's Pretty Woman.
Right.
Back
right.
in the
And I feel like we have more options now in terms of ethically produced porn, in terms of, I hate the term amateur porn because it suggests that two people having sex don't know what they're doing unless they're actors. But, I have seen clients seek out amateur or non-actor porn as a way to foster positive body image. Like, wow, I'm watching people of all shapes and sizes enjoying themselves.
Well, I don't know if yes. Yeah. And it's a huge positive addition to who they are personally and to a partnership, if they're in a partnership. I don't know if you knew this about me, but I had a site for 10 years called Lady Cheeky. And it was a Tumblr site where I curated porn. And it was
You never cease to amaze me.
A female. It's still there and everything, but the whole bent of it was I only posted things that turned me on personally. And I posted all different kinds of bodies, all different kinds of fetishes and sexualities. And sometimes there was mainstream porn, but most of it was focused on connection and passion, because that's what I was looking for, right? And the reason it became so popular at the time was my audience was 50-50 heterosexual men and heterosexual women mostly. And they were all saying, I haven't felt this in my body while watching porn before. I didn't know I could get turned on by this. I have always stayed away from mainstream porn because I compare myself to what I'm seeing up there, the bodies, the boobs, how to do anal sex, how to do a ton of different things, right? And now they are seeing that, they can see that in ethical porn, and they are now seeing that there are different versions of that out there. And it is so craved for, to see yourself represented in an erotic way. Because when you don't like what you see in the mirror, to see yourself reflected back erotically, I think Chris Donahue said this, is ultra empowering. It's revolutionary. And so getting to that for people who want it is really a huge burden lifted off of their self-hatred.
Yeah, for sure. Because, like I say, we have to be mindful of our media consumption, because what we see affects our reticular activating system. It affects the way that we view the world. It's, the lenses that we look at things through. I have my clients, well, I do have them watch some porn, but I also have them take an erotic photo. This doesn't need to be, up close and personal, XXX rated porn shot, but take a photo, practice seeing yourself through an erotic gaze. And I don't require they share it with me. A few of them they've asked permission beforehand and shared with me. And these beautiful, pieces of art where many of them have said, one, I've either never taken a photo like this before, or two, I've taken photos like this, but never just for me. And so again, it's cultivating that inside out approach to sexiness and sexuality rather than this outside in, like this is just for me. And I've had more than a few then report, I turned myself on by looking at these photos of myself.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah. It's, and it can work the other way too with boudoir photography or erotic photography. Just by being courageous and brave and throwing yourself into a position where you are supposed to be erotic, and you are supposed to be sexy, even when you don't feel like it, you kind of work up to being aroused. and being sexy and feeling into your sexuality. And that's why a lot of people do what you do, which is a great suggestion, is to take an erotic photo of themselves, or go hire an erotic photographer if you have the means, or have your partner or best friend take erotic photography of you and see how it makes you feel. Notice how it makes you feel all the way through, because that can be a game changer.
Agreed. I did my first boudoir photo shoot earlier this year, and I was actually inspired by several of my clients who had gone and done it. And I thought, oh my gosh, I haven't done this. And, I've now, for better or for worse, sat through a few professional photo shoots, and I'm always awkward, but this boudoir shoot, I have never felt so comfortable around somebody while walking around almost naked the entire time. And it was and I hate to throw out the word empowering, because it's kind of become diluted to the sense,
I know,
right? But it was so empowering. And she met me where I was at. Some of the photos were cheeky and kind of cute and playful, because that's my vibe. Some of them had a kink element, because that's also my vibe. She wasn't trying to fit me into a box of what boudoir photography is supposed to look like, which I absolutely loved about the experience.
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw a couple of those photos, and they were gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. And you looked so open and free. It was really nice to see.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I have not shared all of them because, Instagram and whatnot, but
yeah.
But thank you for the kind words. I mean,
Yes.
this is me advocating for boudoir shoot. If you can afford to do it, if you live in a city where you can find one, or improvise, have a friend come over, have fun with it. So I want to circle back to this pressure of body love, right? And one person whose perspective I really appreciate, and so I want to kind of see, where does this fit into this spectrum of body neutrality, body acceptance? Sonia Renee Taylor, who wrote The Body Is Not an Apology, and she talks about this notion of radical self-love, meaning that when we were born, when we were little babies, we loved our bodies. We were kind of obsessed with our bodies. We thought that our bodies were the coolest thing ever. And so that was our starting point. And then as we grow up, as we, live in the societies that we live in, it's almost like we have these layers of toxicity that start piling up on top of us, like gunk, like we're covered in these layers upon layers. But this idea that if we could kind of wash them all off, scrape them off, scrub them off, then underneath all of that is actual love, right? And so how do you reconcile that notion with the idea that promoting body love is unrealistic and in itself can become toxic?
Yes. This is how I reconcile that. Both and. I love Sonia Renee Taylor. I'm a patron on her Patreon. She is a goddess and a wizard, as far as I am concerned. She has a different philosophy of how she goes about it. And who she attracts are people that will benefit from that philosophy and get to where they want to go through that, right? Like you and I do very similar things. I'm an intimacy and relationship coach and do body image. You do the same thing, but we are different people. And there are people that are going to be attracted to the way you teach and the way you are with them. And that's why there's enough for everybody, right?
Yeah.
There'll be people that I will get. I think that too, what I'm speaking about as far as body love goes is more of the commodification of body love. I think that to promise people body love is really just it's a big promise. But if you promise people, if you give them ways to make it a practice of acceptance, and maybe you'll get to body love. That's a whole different situation, you know? I just feel that the people in my space that tend to come to me have been vulva owners that are broken down by diet culture, fat phobia, dating, and are frustrated and stuck because they don't love their bodies, but they've tried everything, right? I think by giving them the relief that they don't have to, gives them sort of a backdoor permission to do it, but not have a timeline on it, not make it a goal, not think that it will happen someday, that it is a practice of accepting your body. And you don't have to love your body. You don't. You don't have to. And it's okay. And you're fine. And you're doing everything right. It will never all get done. And everything is a process. So I, like I said, I love Sonia Renee Taylor. I love her work. She is talking to a group of people that are attracted to her message, and she will help those people a great deal.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for all of us to know. There are different messages out there. No one has one answer because we're all so different.
That is, and thank you for bringing
at least.
Yeah. Well, and so I think this dovetails quite nicely into ways in which you and I are actually very similar in our approach, and things that within, because correct me if I'm wrong, but neither of us come from a spiritual based approach when we approach intimacy and sexuality, education and coaching, right?
Yet go ahead.
Well, but before we started our recording today, we got very excited. We were talking about a bunch of stuff, but this feeding into this idea of you've got to love your body, this pressure. I'm hearing you say, like, it's become commodified. There's this pressure to do this thing. I'm seeing a lot of pressure from people within our space, Elle. Pressure to be the multi-orgasmic goddess, female sexual goddess, and the commodification of the yoni eggs and the goopifying of our sexuality in a way that is putting a lot of pressure. I have worked with many women who've either never had an orgasm before or who have had them alone but not with partners, right? And this same trajectory of, cool, let's see if we can get there. And if we can't get there to the big O, we're going to have a heck of a lot of fun along the way. But removing some of that pressure. How do you see?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I think I'm going in the direction you were going to go in, but I'm not sure. I have a friend staying with me, Ann Hodder-Ship, who is a great sex educator in her own right. And we were talking about, we're watching this documentary called Orgasm Inc. about slow sex and the one taste movement. And I looked at her and I said, oh, well, this is just someone who's made a multi-level marketing business out of mutual masturbation and relational skills. Okay. There's nothing wrong with the practice, but she had perverted this one area into whatever she wanted it to be, right? So it's sort of similar with women's sexuality, or can be. The goopification of it is, I see an area that needs help. I'm going to help. And they don't do their research and they don't think it through as much, or they get experts that they see that are sort of the loudest, that are out there promoting themselves and doing all of that, which is nothing wrong with that. But that's more important than getting someone who really knows their shit, right? So the point of sex education, or the purpose of sex education, is often teaching people to unlearn how they look at things, unlearn what they're being told by the magazines they read, by the shows. Even, you know, my favorite show is Dateline with Keith Morrison. I'm a true crime junkie. I love it. But every time they talk about a woman, they describe her as beautiful. They don't do that with the men.
Yeah.
They don't say he was a handsome young man. She was a beautiful, vibrant woman. What does that got to do with it? Mm-hmm. And it's those little pieces that seep into our brains that we need to unlearn, that beautiful isn't the price we pay to be sexy. That unlearn that who told you need to have 12 different types of orgasms, or that there are 12 types of orgasms. How about the meme and the idea that went around that there are 8,000 nerve endings in the clit, where they just found that there are more than 10,000?
Mm-hmm.
Because it is people want bite size. They want a meme. They want a tweet. They want everything in that. And I get it. But education has now become, first you must unlearn, and now you must learn. It's making them aware. It's teaching them media literacy, and not to always ask themselves, what is true in this situation, really? Mm-hmm. Like you were saying, you know, you've had clients who have never had orgasm or have it by themselves. And what is behind not being able to orgasm for them? Is it that they don't feel like it's worthwhile, that they're worthy, that no one's ever given them one? What is it? Because unless there's some medical reason, we're capable of it. And it all comes down to unlearning the crap, and learning that we all deserve pleasure in whatever way it comes. And there's no one way that's better than the other.
Yeah. And I mean, just to briefly answer your question, which might have been hypothetical, but why I see this happening, where people are like, oh yeah, I can reach orgasm really quickly on my own, but I've either never reached one with a partner, or, you know, it takes me significantly longer. There are usually a host of factors. One is, okay, what are you using when you're on your own? Well, I like to use this one particular kind of toy. Cool. Do you bring that into the bedroom with you? Like, right. Do you replicate with another person what you're already doing on your own? But also for some, self-pleasure has been something that has been a secret part of who they are, a shameful part, especially if they're raised in a religious or cultural environment that doesn't even discuss female pleasure. So this thing that you've been doing in the shadows for so long, orgasms, right? Orgasm has been this secret, naughty, dirty, perhaps even sinful thing that you've been doing. And sharing that sin, air quotes, sharing that sin and that shame with somebody else, that puts a tremendous amount of pressure on our brakes, on the things that take us out of the mood. So definitely encouraging people to bring in whatever toys or methods they use on their own, and to start introducing those with a partner, but also to very much ease into that. Don't expect it to happen the first time. Maybe you practice having your partner just in the room with a blindfold on while you use your toy on yourself. Just having an orgasm with another person in the room before you leap to the conclusion of, okay, and now my partner's going to give me the orgasm. But there's, so many things. And I really, truly believe, Elle, if we're talking about bite-sized, meme-sized things, the one thing that could undo so much of our sexual shame, regardless of gender, is if people had a basic understanding of the clitoris. Like that in and of itself, then we would know, like, no, there's actually, when we're talking about genital orgasms, there's really just one kind. It's clitoral. We would understand that most women, or most people with vaginas, don't reach orgasm through penetrative intercourse, and why we don't. It would take pressure off of people with penises to give us orgasms that way. I mean, if literally that was the only thing that we started teaching folks in sex ed, just that, imagine how much shame we could get rid of just through that one piece of basic anatomy right there.
Yeah, I might actually go a little bit further. Is that what will help get you there is getting to know your body with your hands, making that a practice, getting to know the topography of your body, how you like to come, how you like to be touched, and under what context and conditions. Because toys are great. I am pro toy. But there is something about using your hands. Hands have so much dexterity and so much different ways of touching and using it. And when someone is touching you, they're most likely using their hands or their mouth or whatever. So to get used to that touch and know how you like to be touched, and then communicating like, hi, this is what I like. I like it this way. I tend to come really fast this way. Sometimes I don't come for half an hour. Sometimes I don't come at all, but I find it all so enjoyable. But making it okay to talk to your partner, even during sex, right before sex, not in the bedroom, and just saying, hey, I would love to try mutual masturbation. It feels really taboo because I've only done it myself and I've only done it one way my whole entire life because, if it ain't broke. But it might be something that I could show you how I like it and you could show me how you like it. And I think that the basic anatomy of it is vital. But I think even before that is telling someone where you like to be touched that arouses you and gets you going. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. But also, and a little asterisk here that for some people who have vulvas and vaginas, fingers don't cut it. I will speak up.
Yeah.
And some people need that intense direct external clitoral stimulation. So I also don't want to shame people if it's like, well, I've tried my hands and they don't do the thing.
No.
But get curious.
I think what I'm trying to say is know your body. And like, I discovered my body that way. And I discovered that like the inside of my wrists were really sexually pleasurable to touch. It's not something I would have found out any other way. Now, when I masturbate, do I use my fingers? No, I use a vibrator. But when I'm with somebody, I am able to tell them, I like it this way. I like it that way. And if it's not working, I'm like, okay, I'm taking up the bullet, all of that is part of it. All of that is part of exploring our own bodies and taking the shame away. The more we touch our bodies. And because if you think about it, when people with penises grow up, they are touching their penis all the time. They touch it to pee. Yeah. They, rearrange it. They do whatever with it. But people with vulvas are taught that it's kind of dirty. They have to wipe it clean. They don't touch it. They're not told that it's right to touch it. So they're not used to it. And so I think being able to touch our bodies without, with abandon and without shame, and then being able to share that with somebody else is a really nice step into sexiness, into body acceptance, and into sexual pleasure acceptance as well. And I just speak from personal experience in that way. But I own more sex toys than I can count, and I covet all of them.
Yeah, and what I tell for some folks, because especially if you are using your hand or you're using a small vibrator, 1/2 an inch in the wrong direction can be the difference between orgasm and I actually don't feel a goddamn thing right now. So when couples are starting off exploring with toys together, I typically say the bigger the better. Get a big wand, because you don't have to have an eagle eye precision. Get a big wand with a large head with large surface area, because it's kind of like, I don't know, like, just the easy building blocks that you need. make it as simple as possible. And then if you want to move on to smaller toys, you can. But set everyone up for success here.
Well, Elle, wands are like the number one recommended.
Yes. And they're kind of magical, right? So what would be one tip that you could give folks if they're like, all right, I want to start a practice around, I want to start this journey of body acceptance. What's one tip that you could give listeners to walk away with to start doing that?
My first tip is to notice how many times you judge yourself during the day and how many times you judge others, regardless of what you're judging them for. Literally write it down. Spend one day doing that. You will be amazed, right? Because that shows you how much bombardment you're getting from the media, from yourself, from the old tapes that you're listening to, from other people, and how you judge other people is usually how you judge yourself. So if you're judging someone, say, she's got a really big ass, she should not be wearing those pants. Why am I saying that? Why does that bother me so much? Why do I feel snarky with? Oh, because I have a big ass and I don't wear those pants. Because I don't think that I look attractive in them. Like dig deep into those areas. If that's not something that resonates, I think just the act of replacing any negative thought that they have with something neutral. When I don't feel good about my body and I don't like anything about my body, I focus on my nails. When I was little, there was nothing attractive about me to my mother, really, except my nail beds. I had great nail beds. So to this day, you can tell me anything about me, but God damn it, motherfucker, I have gorgeous nail beds. So if I'm feeling bad about my body, I'll be like, God, I don't like the way I look. I'm like, oh, those nail beds are so awesome. Or I will go to neutral and be like, I love how padded my ass is, because I can sit for a long period of time. Or it's so soft when I touch it. I love my skin. If you can't say something positive without 100% believing it, say something neutral. Mm-hmm. Those are my go-to tips, I would say.
I have to just share a quick story because you brought up nail beds. So a practice I do with my clients is I have them look in the mirror. I have them do this for a week. Look in the mirror nude once a day and write down one thing that you see that you like. Okay. And I had a client I worked with, and she completed her log for the week. And then when we got on our session, she said, Rena, could you tell I was scraping the bottom of the barrel by the end there? I literally said, well, I guess my nail beds are pretty nice. But you know, like literally. And so when you said that, I was like, oh my gosh. And so if I said, write down, 10 things in 1 minute that you don't like about your body in the mirror, yeah, that would be easy because we're accustomed to looking at ourselves through that critical gaze. So I would add on, if people want a different kind of alternative suggestion, or in addition to what you recommended, practice the looking in the mirror thing. It is a practice. You're not going to do it once and all of a sudden be okay. But maybe it's, well, I don't mind my eyebrows, right? It doesn't have to be something you love about your body. It can be, I have pretty nice nail beds.
Yes. And that's just as valid as any compliment you give yourself or anything you love about yourself, you know? And two things can be true at the same time. You can not like your ass and love your nail beds, or vice versa, and still feel pretty hot.
Yes. Well, amen to that.
That's a really good practice.
Yes. So thank you so much for being here today. Where can people find you?
I'm at ellechase.com, ELLECHASE.com. And on all the social medias, I'm the Elle Chase.
All righty. Thank you so much, Elle. This has been awesome. We could do this for days, I'm sure, and we'll have to pick this up next time we see each other in person.
Yes, I think so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Elle.
I hope that episode was helpful. Hey, listen, if you want to share your singlehood journey, if you've gone somewhere and come back, if you have revelations and wisdom, please share your story. It's going to help other people. Nothing makes us feel more connected than hearing other people's stories. So just send me the audio of your story, and you could just record it directly from your phone and email it to theangrytherapist@gmail.com. Also, if you want our Single on Purpose newsletter, go to singleonpurpose.life. That's singleonpurpose.life. You will get tools and articles and other people's stories, and also Zoom links to private gathers. So if you want to join our community, go to singleonpurpose.life. Thank you for listening. Be well. We hope you tell a friend.
Hey, good morning. My name's Elizabeth. I'm on the East Coast, and the Single on Purpose book was such an eye-opener for me. I'm 50, been divorced for a while, almost 13 years, dated on and off. And I notice when I come into a relationship, I come with my whole self, and I feel confident and like I have much to give. But then I find myself diving into the relationship and overcompensating for something, and I'm trying to figure out what that is, meaning that I give up parts of myself to be in the relationship, thinking that's what love is. If I show them that I love them through the lens of not doing the things that I love anymore and kind of almost being a chameleon and taking on what they love to do, and not honoring myself in the relationship. And I think that comes from my history of childhood trauma and thinking love is about giving up your whole self. And as I was listening to the podcast, this is, kind of an aha moment, and thinking, wow, like my next relationship, when that happens, that I need to be my true self and still honor the things that are important to me. Thanks for listening. Thanks for putting this on your podcast. You're doing amazing work. I appreciate it. Talk to you soon. Bye.